What's up guys, I'm Grunt and today we're going to be doing something a little different. Today we're going to be going over how to improve your aim with a controller. And no, I don't mean be a complete loser and use a mouse and keyboard on console. Anyway, whether you're new and your sensitivity is still really low, or you're trying to increase it and you just can't seem to hit the brick wall in front of you, this guide will help you so that you can stop doing stuff like this. Becky. First things first, we want to get your current sensitivity out of your system. So go into your control options and turn all of your sensitivity options down to 1. Make sure you've got aim assist disabled, as this will be off during multiplayer anyway. And it's also probably a good idea to make sure your gadget deployment is on toggle and your drone deployment is on advanced. Once you've done that, go over to your matchmaking preferences and make sure you've only got Terrorist Hunt Classic on, and then you can go down and turn off any maps you don't like as well. Once you've done all of that, we're going to go into a Lone Wolf Terror Hunt on normal. So, pick your favourite spawn and then pick Sledge. We're going to be using Sledge because he's got a pretty standard recoil. Just make sure you're running the L85A2 with an ACOG, and the SMG11 isn't a bad idea either, as that's got a good bit of recoil to it. So you're going to very quickly notice that it is painfully slow to try and turn the camera. Which is good, this is what it's like watching someone with the default sensitivity. All jokes aside though, your goal for this terror hunt is to complete it, but if you can't, which will be completely understandable, try to get at least half the enemies or just do it a couple of times just to make sure your old sensitivity is completely out of your system. Also try not to use your grenades, guns only for this. Once you've completed it, or done it a couple of times, we'll move on to Phase 2. Now we're going to be doing the complete opposite. We're going to go back to our sensitivity settings and turn them all the way up to 100. Now the first thing that you'll probably notice is that the vertical sensitivity is absolutely horrendous. It's stupidly high. But what I want you to get used to is the horizontal sensitivity. Hopefully you'll find that when you're not aiming, the horizontal sensitivity isn't actually that bad. I'm not saying you're going to be perfectly flicking from enemy to enemy immediately, but it shouldn't be too terrible. Again, try and complete it, but if you can't, your goal is at least half the enemies, and if you're not getting used to the horizontal sensitivity quickly, just keep doing it a couple more times. Once you're getting used to having a higher sensitivity, we'll move on to Phase 3. So after Phase 2, you should be okay with having a high horizontal sensitivity. But you've hopefully noticed that when you're ADSing, it's almost impossible to control reliably, especially if you try and control the recoil. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and take both the vertical sensitivity and the ADS sensitivity down to 50. It'll probably still be a bit high, but you should be able to control the recoil a lot better. From now on, I'd say the goal for these terrorist hunts is to complete them. During phase 3, you should notice that your horizontal flicks are getting a lot better, and you can actually start to control your recoil pretty decently. Once you've completed it, or you feel like you could go into multiplayer with this sensitivity, we'll move on to phase 4. So this will probably be the hardest phase. We're going to be trying to dial it all in. So what you want to do is you want to pick 2 points a decent distance away from each other. For this I'm going to be using the satellite dish and the barrel. And what you want to do is you just want to try and flick between them. And you'll see that I'm over rotating, so I'm just going to down the horizontal just a little bit. And from the last part, my vertical was still a little bit high, so I'm also going to go ahead and down that. Once you've made your adjustments, go and do the mission, and just try and figure out what's wrong with your aim. If you're over rotating by a lot when you try to flick to someone, down your horizontal sensitivity just a little bit. And if you're aiming at the ground a lot when you try and control the recoil, down the vertical. And if something still feels a little too fast and you can't figure out what it is, just down the ADS by a little bit. And eventually you're going to find something that clicks with you. I can't tell you exactly what that's going to be, as it'll be different for everybody. But your horizontal flicks are just going to feel right in and out of ADS, and you should easily be able to control Sledge's recoil. Once you've found the sweet spot, we'll move on to phase 5. For this phase, you want to pick Buck, as he has one of, if not the worst vertical recoils. Just make sure you're running the C8 with an ACOG. If you don't have Buck, you can also pick Twitch, as after the Phantom Sight update, their recoils are pretty similar. And besides, it's not like we're trying to control Ella's horizontal recoil. Ugh. As is the usual now, try and complete the tarot hunt and get used to the recoil with short bursts and full mag dumps. Hopefully it won't take too long to get used to.
Enemies remaining.
Once you can use Buck or Twitch effectively, we'll move on to the final phase. For the final phase, we're going to be going into a realistic terrorist hunt rather than a normal one. This time, pick your favorite operator, and good luck. Your goal is to complete it.
Eliminate all of the terrorists. 3 enemies remaining.
And congratulations, you now have a new sensitivity, hopefully a lot higher than your previous one, that you can actually control. Now over time you might notice something starts to feel a little bit off, so just make slight adjustments, and by slight I mean 1 or 2 points at a time. Another thing I'd recommend is to warm up your aim with a couple of terror hunts on hard, especially if you haven't played in a while. But the most important thing to remember is, you are going to have off days, your aim will suck every now and then. This doesn't mean you need to change your sensitivity, you just need to have a break or go back and do a couple more terror hunts. So what I'm trying to say is you don't want to immediately chuck your new sensitivity out the window just because you have a couple of rough games. Anyway, I've also got some ideas for more guides in the future, like how to give proper callouts and how to create strats. So, if this did help you, make sure you subscribe, leave a like and all that stuff. Have fun getting called a mouse and keyboard loser, and I'll see you in the next video.